We have a limitation of time and we have 5 speakers, including the 3 here. I think the topic for discussion is the theme of the World Mental Health Day. That is, mental health is a universal human right. I think we'll start with the first person introduction by Gabriel Ivbijaro. Can you start with presentation?
Hello, thanks everybody, colleagues. My name is Professor Gabriel Ivbijaro. I'm the Secretary General of the World Federation for Mental Health, and it's my pleasure to be introducing this event in this special plenary. Sorry, I was going to be with you physically. Unfortunately, because of some family issues, I'm not going to be with you. I'm deeply sorry about it, but I hope in the future we'll have opportunity to meet again. So I want to give special greetings to our Indian friends and colleagues, and especially in China, who have put this event together. So this is the Diamond Jubilee celebration. So really it's a big landmark, and I want to say congratulations to all of you. I know it's been a long journey and I see a long way to go. So I want to say special thank you to our patrons, Professor Lai, Professor Afzal Javid, from WPA, a very good friend of mine. I'm saying special thank you to the organizing chairperson, Professor Basu, who you all know very well. Thanks to the organizing secretariat and secretaries and treasurer, and of course, Roy, who has been our regional VP in your region. Roy, well done, and thank you again for this opportunity. So what I'm going to cover is a special plenary symposium. There will be a couple of things to be covered. Four key areas. One of them is about human rights in the practice of psychiatry, which will be led by Roy Kallivayalil. Psychiatry is important. We have to offer treatment. We have come a long way where there's the future for us to consider. So soon in Mittal, we'll be looking at mental health, new perspectives. And I say already, what are the new things? What are the new initiatives we need to look into? Of course, development is so critical, So Indira Sharma will be looking at mental health as a human right movement. And they have a good case example of human rights from the past. So it's a very rich presentation. So thank you to these 4 presenters. And I know you learned a lot from them. So, how was this year's option chosen? This year's theme was chosen from a consensus given by the public. So the public suggested topics and they voted and they came up with this, mental health is a universal human right. What a time to choose this topic. What a day to be celebrating with mental health using human rights. Because if you, as I said before, we've come along with 75 years and this was chosen by the public. And I'm very grateful to my Indian colleagues because of you perspective. Well, I help us then to begin to fine tune what to expect from this year. So we need to be looking at how human rights of citizens should be protected across the spectrum. So it doesn't matter whether you're young, old, gender, vulnerable or non-vulnerable. So this is really very important. And you can see there also displaced people. Many people in the world are being displaced. So we're going to use this opportunity to highlight that. We have to have good access to health, quality available health. So people are struggling. So that's the other issue that we want to cover. And of course, right, and freedom to speak and dignity. We all want to have dignity in our life. So what have we done here? We've gone beyond the past, engage young people, engage sponsoring events. And this year, the WFMH is supporting Better London 10K run on 24th of September. So very important, so that we can talk about mental health and also to reduce social isolation. So really, so the voice of people, let our voice be known, let our voice be counted, let's all come together. I'll be there to cheer people up. So really to say we don't need to isolate ourselves. We know health, exercise works in health. So but we need to be able to start saying the things and the things that we believe in. And as I said earlier on, this is our 75th anniversary. So we're gonna have a big event, a very big event in Geneva, in November, where we want to identify the things we've done in the past, good things we have done, what are the challenges we have faced in the past, what are the new challenges, and then we'll then develop another roadmap for another 75 years. I am pleased as Secretary General to be part of this event, and my president, Master Loza, is very happy to be the president when we're having this review. We have to have this review. You see, it's important. We need to think about how we want our mental health advocacy to look like in the future. So I'm really using the opportunity to let you know about this, so I'll be able to communicate with you as soon as possible. If you want to know a bit more about this, please drop me an email. We have a huge team working on all this event. And I just want to start again, to say again clearly, We've come a long way. They say a long way to go. And I'm using this opportunity to welcome you to the fold. And I'm thanking Roy and the team for this special event. And let's see how the next we can develop the roadmap for the next 75 years. Once more, thank you, and thank you very much.
Thank Gabi for this talk. I think the next speaker is mine. Can you put my... There are 5 speakers and 3 are here. As you know, myself and Sunil are alumni of PGI. So we have been here nearly 4 decades ago, along with Professor Indira Sharma, who is from the Benares Hindu University, the national professor in psychiatry. So time is limited. I think I will go ahead with the presentation. So because human rights has become very important this year for several reasons. This is the 75th year of the World Federation for Mental Health. And also it is also the 75 years after the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was adopted by United Nations in 1948. So that becomes a very important time to consider human rights. As you can see, the rights of every man are diminished when the rights of one man are threatened. Lost rights are never regained by appeals to the conscience of the usurpers, but by a relentless struggle. B.R. Ambedkar, who was in the forefront of the struggle for the underprivileged in India. The doctrine of human rights has been a cornerstone of public policy around the world. The idea of human rights states, quote, if the public discourse of peacetime global society can be said to have a common goal language, moral language, it is that of human rights. World Federation of Mental Health and World Mental Health Day theme 2023. Mental health is a universal human right is the theme for the World Mental Health Day 2023, observed on the October 10th, organized under the leadership of the World Federation for Mental Health, WFMH and WHO. The observance this year is of special significance as the WFMH, founded in 1948, is celebrating its 75th anniversary. As you know, WFMH is co-sponsoring this conference. 1948 also marks the adoption of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, UDHR, on December 10 by the UN General Assembly. Human rights are commonly understood as inalienable fundamental rights to which a person is inherently entitled simply because she or he is a human being. Human rights are thus conceived as universal, applicable everywhere, and egalitarian, the same for everyone. These rights may exist as natural rights or as legal rights in local, regional, national, and international law. What are human rights? United Nations. Human rights are rights inherent to all human beings, regardless of race, sex, nationality, ethnicity, language, religion, or any other status. Human rights include the right to life and liberty, freedom from slavery and torture, freedom of opinion and expression, the right to work and education, and many more. Everyone is entitled to these rights without discrimination. Human Rights and UN Charter. Article 1.3 of the United Nations Charter states that one of the purposes of the UN is, quote, to achieve international cooperation in solving international problems of an economic, social, cultural, or humanitarian character, and in promoting and encouraging respect for human rights and for fundamental freedoms for all without distinction as to race, sex, language, or religion, unquote. To come to the history, the human rights movement mostly developed in the aftermath of the Second World War and the atrocities of the Holocaust. It culminated in the adoption of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in Paris by the UN General Assembly in 1948. The modern human rights arguments emerged over the latter half of the 20th century. Human rights can be classified as civil and political rights, and secondly, economic, social, and cultural rights. The UDHR 1948 includes both economic, social, and cultural rights and civil and political rights because it was based on the principle that different rights could only successfully exist in combination. Human rights treaties in 1966, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, and the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights were adopted by the United Nations. Between them, making the rights contained in the UDHR binding on all states that have signed this treaty, creating human rights law. Civil and political rights are enshrined in Article 321 of the UDHR. I'm not going into the details. Other treaties, some of them are UN Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, UN Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination, UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, adopted in 2006 and reinforced 2008, Convention on the Rights of Child, United Nations Convention Against Torture, International Convention on the Protection of Rights of all migrant workers and members of their families, human rights and the UN, primarily the concern of the United Nations Security Council and the United Nations Human Rights Council. Numerous committees within the UN with responsibilities for safeguarding different human rights treaties. The most senior body of the UN in the sphere of human rights is the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. You can see, despite all this, very many atrocities, these are the Guantanamo report raises questions on complicity of medical professionals. So we have been, some of us, including physicians and psychiatrists, have been alleged to be involved. Human rights, substantive rights, right to life. Every human being has the inherent right to life. This right shall be protected by law. No one shall be arbitrarily deprived of his life. The right to life is the essential right that a human being has a right not to be killed by another human being. The concept of a right to life is central to debates on the issue of abortion, capital punishment, euthanasia, self-defense, and war. Right to fair trial. Everyone is entitled to full equality to a fair and public hearing by an independent and impartial tribunal in the determination of his rights and obligations and of any criminal charge against him. Freedom of speech is the freedom to speak freely without censorship. It includes any act of seeking, receiving, and imparting information or ideas, regardless of the medium. In practice, the right to freedom of speech is not absolute in any country, and the right is commonly subject to limitations, such as on libel, slander, obscenity, incitement to commit a crime, etc. UN Convention on the Rights of Disabilities, UNCRPD, International Human Rights Document to protect the rights and dignity of persons with disabilities. Parties to the convention are required to promote, protect, and ensure the full enjoyment of human rights by persons with disabilities to ensure they enjoy full equality before law. As we all know, mental illness has also been included as one of the disabilities, so that concerns all mental health professionals. Human rights and non-governmental organizations. International human rights NGOs such as the Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and FIDH monitor what they see as human rights issues around the world and promote their views on the subject. Human rights organizations have been set to translate complex international issues into activities to be undertaken by concerned citizens in their own community. Human Rights Office, OHCHR Geneva, the Office of the Human Rights Commissioner, High Commissioner for Human Rights, is a leading UN entity on human rights, entrusted with a unique mandate to promote and protect all human rights for all people. Human Rights Day, December 10. Human Rights Day is observed by the international community every year on 10th December. It commemorates a day in 1948, the United Nations General Assembly adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Now, coming to India, the fundamental rights guaranteed in our constitution, they are the right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to freedom of religion, cultural and religious rights, and right to constitutional remedies. National Human Rights Commission of India, autonomous public body constituted in 1993, Statutory Protection of Human Rights Act 1993, National Human Rights Institution responsible for the protection and promotion of human rights, defined by the Act as, quote, the rights relating to life, liberty, equality, and dignity of the individual, guaranteed by the Constitution or embodied in the international covenants. Right to mental health is a human right. NHRC in India, September 2015 rule. Right to mental health is a human right, and the central and state governments have a constitutional obligation to protect and promote this human right. human rights and the environment. The onset of various environmental issues, especially climate change, has created potential conflicts. Human rights ultimately require a working ecosystem and healthy environment. Environmental rights revolve largely around the idea of right to a livable environment, both for the present and the future generations. Data and human rights. Better data collection bolsters human rights of marginalized people. We are in the midst of a data revolution that would radically improve the way we see data to better understand human rights concerns and risks, access progress, monitor human rights, hold governments, business, and individuals accountable, and foster sustainable development. UN said in last year. This is the OSCE Human Rights and Mental Health upcoming event, online launch event, Monday, 9th October 2023. The World Health Organization and the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights invite us to join the launch of their new publication, called Mental Health, Human Rights and Legislation, Guidance and Practice. This is a very progressive. This is something which is very valuable for us, that mental health actually in one of the prime focus areas for the United Nations now. And if anyone wants to have the link to this meeting, I will be very happy to share that. Upcoming, it provides information to enjoyable policymakers, legislators, and other stakeholders to formulate laws in line with international human rights standards, including the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. It also offers practical information on how to develop, implement, and evaluate mental health related legislation following a rights-based process. In conclusion, the 21st century is the era of human rights. The UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities 2006 is a landmark. The landscape of the mental health legislation and other disability laws are fast changing. Human rights affects all people, including those with mental disability. All human rights are universal, indivisible, and interdependent and related. The international community must treat human rights globally in a fair and equal manner, in the same footing and with the same emphasis. And lastly, as the symbol of the city of Chandigarh says, open arms, open to give and open to receive. Thank you very much. Then I would like to hereby invite the next speaker, Dr. Sunil Mittal, who is one of the leading lights of the World Federation for Mental Health. He's a director of the member of the board of directors. He had organized the WFMH International Congress in New Delhi in 2017, and alumnus of this institute, my senior by a year, and also one of the most outstanding alumnus of this institute. Hearty welcome, Sunil.
Good afternoon, friends. And thank you, Roy, for the kind words. It's indeed a pleasure being here. 40 years back, having stood on this stage with some performances in theater, and today speaking here, it's really a delight to be here. And coming to today's this important symposium, which is indeed a real important symposium. And thank you, Roy, for having this symposium here. Roy and Gabriel have set the background to the symposium. And I'd go on to add the new perspectives to mental health. Now, this is going to look at mental health a little broadly, not just mental illness. We are going to look at mental illness and what Norman Sartoria spoke about in the morning, the caregivers, their rights. And then we are going to look at how the newer perspectives and new developments, how they impact or impinge upon rights and the evolution of human rights and their application that has to occur. I'll try and make it in 10 minutes. Let's hope so. If you look at the journey of human rights, post-World War II, the mayhem, the violations that took and shook the human conscience, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that Roy has spoken about, then the International Covenant on Cultural, the Covenant on Economic, Social, Cultural Rights, and then, of course, more applicable to mental health, mental illnesses, the UN Convention on the Rights of People with Disability, 2006-2007. And then if you look at this, that there is a continuous thought about protection, promotion of right to mental health. How much of it has been realized is open to question and criticism, but then of course the march is on. And then if you look at the CRPD of 2006, 2007, all laws and legislations today have to be sort of be harmonized to the CRPD, and India specifically is a signatory and has ratified the CRPD. And so our law, the Mental Health Care Act 2017, is in harmony to as much extent as possible with the UN CRPD. And we'll look at some of the provisions there. And the Constitution of India, which Article 21 on the fundamental rights, protection of life and personal liberty, which includes the right to health and which subsumes the right to mental health, 1950 document. So this is an important guiding document that which all of us are influenced with. And if you look at the application of this the document, we look at the need. It is important that initiatives for persons with mental illness focus not only on the right to liberty, but also on their rights to treatment, access to affordable quality care, social inclusion, social justice, social equity, and which means poverty, which means remote areas, everything just comes in. And also non-discrimination in insurance, health insurance, in education, in employment, and the whole question of consent for treatment and supported decision making, which is not a substitute decision making for treatment, advanced directives which are there in the Indian law today, which are novel, which are new, which are testing grounds on a person PMI saying that how he want to be treated in future, and also the political empowerment that follows. The CRPD, if it has its way, it wouldn't be possible in any involuntary or supported decision-making manner to actually treat somebody with mental illness. And in that sense, even the Mental Health Care Act is in contradiction with the CRPD provisions. And the CRPD, one of the committees later on, was quite dismissive about even the whole question of mental capacity, because they felt that legal capacity, everybody is a full legal actor. And legal capacity is what is paramount. But to improve the position of mentally ill and their families, and to enhance their experience of mental health, social justice, and liberty, it is pertinent, it's important that the right to treatment should be equally emphasized as a right to liberty. And in that context, all across the world, especially in developed or low and middle income countries like India, 90% people with PMI with the mental illness, they live with their families. And it is the responsibility, as Norman Sartorius spoke with us in the morning, of caregivers and their rights to be recognized. This is unheard, unknown, unspoken of. The law in India elsewhere doesn't provide for it. The right to enable and access best treatment and care for the person with mental illness. It is very important. The right to access trainings for caregiving, extremely important. The right to own health, their own health, including physical and mental health, and help thereof. Right to information about the PMI's treatment, which is often in conflict with confidentiality clauses. The right to caregiving leave, the right to job protection when they take off, and the right to financial support, a caregiving allowance. The state actor, the state is actually, by default, absolving itself of responsibilities, enacting laws, and alienating mentally ill persons from their families. The right to tax benefits, the right to medical insurance of PMIs, and the ease of processes, the right to respite care, to take off and to be able to look after their own health and needs, and the right to protection for action taken in good faith for the person with mental illness benefit. So these are caregiver rights that need to be addressed. And these are the newer challenges which each one of us should be willing to and should be focusing on. And if you look at some of the newer perspectives are not really that new. They have been 2-3 decades in the making. If you look at some developments, telepsychiatry and digital therapeutics, whereas they have increased the right to access, they've gone beyond geo boundaries, but there is also digital divide in India as well as in other countries. People and the governments can absolve themselves. We have provided e-Sanjeevani, e-Manas, and everybody has access. But does everybody have access to digital technologies? Data privacy and security concerns also are there. Personalized medicine, I'm going to run through the list in the interest of time, and which has actually bolstered the right to individualized care, but has also brought about ethical concerns that need to be addressed equally importantly about genetic information and the possible use for discrimination at different fields of life. Neuroplasticity and brain health, another development that we talk about in mental health. And this is brought about the issue of right to access innovation. People who may be impoverished, their right to access innovation, the right to benefit from scientific progress. And at the same time, the neuroplasticity and brain health developments are also promoting resilience and recovery. So we see that how this otherwise unseeming area influences human rights. The role of microbiome in mental health, similarly, right to receive comprehensive health care, promoting preventive measures. Early intervention and preventive measures, it may impinge upon the right to liberty, because how would you start treatment early if the person is not willing to take treatment? But then, of course, so it is for supporting person's own, preventing morbidity and disability and supporting healthier communities. Trauma-informed care is another area, right to dignified life, promoting healing and preventing re-traumatization, and integrating knowledge so generated into policy and practice. Integrating our holistic approaches, lifestyle and mental health, right to holistic treatments. It is applicable. Mental health peer support is another area which is there, which should be supported and developed. Positive psychology, self-compassion and mindfulness, all are for promoting mental health, primary prevention, as well as prevention of morbidity. Gender and mental health is a big issue. Indira ji is going to speak about women mental health. The LGBTQIA community, their rights not to be discriminated, the right to dignified life, the right to access mental health care, and the right to respectful treatment. And bringing up issues of even gender reassignment surgeries. Pandemic, lockdown, and mental health, we are all aware of the challenges that it has brought about. And there is a huge list. These are some of the areas which are there, the newer developments which are concerned with human rights, right? And making empowered choices. I come from a generation where if you were aware that you had mental illness, you still sort of covered it up. You didn't go and talk about it, didn't seek help. And then came a generation where they knew they had mental illness, but somehow cope up, you can do it. And then came a generation where they say, it is my right to have mental health care. And I see young people walk in with their parents, convincing them that they require mental health care. And then recently I was speaking to a corporate body where they have been threatened by somebody that the environment at the workplace is not conducive to mental health. The working hours, the bullying at the office, and we are all aware of educational institutions all across the country, all across the world, where mental health has not been really addressed. So these are multifactorial perspectives that require to be taken up when we are talking about right to mental health and the promotion, protection, and development further. Close to 1 billion people across the world are living with mental disorder. 1 in 4 is going to suffer. 90% of people with mental disorders in low and middle income countries live with their own families. It is important to address social determinants of mental health. We have Alan Tasman speaking today evening on social determinants, and everyone has the right to the highest attainable standard of mental health. States must promote, protect, and fulfill this right. For states to do so, every institution must do so. And for every institution to do so, each one of us must do so. Because mental health concerns everyone, everywhere. And therefore, like WHO has said in its report, the World Mental Health Report 2022, mental health is critically important for everyone, everywhere. Mental health is an integral part of our general well-being and a basic human right. And next, WFMH, the World Mental Health Day theme is that mental health is a universal human right. Each one of us needs to support this. Each one of us needs to practice it in our own personal lives. Thank you.
Sunil, for the presentation. Now I may invite Indira for her presentation. She is or Professor of the Varanasi, Institute of Mental Health there, National University, now a national professor, former professor of the Indian Psychiatric Society, and also director of the World Federation. What to like?
Namaskar. Today I will be talking about mental health as a human right in women. Now, this is a very favorite area of mine. Now, the basic question is, why talk about women mental health as a human right? There have been objections. It is said that prioritization of women mental health is unjustified because there are global concerns about gender equality. Therefore, why talk about women mental health? Talk about just mental health of people. Then it is said that medicine has a discipline, obs and gynae, exclusively for women, but none for men. In the Indian Psychiatric Society, the Women Mental Health Committee has no men in the committee. And then I went through a letter to the editor in Lancet, which has strongly criticized various papers which were talking about women mental health. You cannot favor women. What about the men? So these are the objections which are there. But I would like to say that when you look at men and women, they are both human beings. So in this respect, they are equal. But God has given women the ability to conceive, to become pregnant, to deliver, to breastfeed, and to nurture the baby almost exclusively for the first 2 years. Thus, she deserves an extra share. So, my dear friends, don't say that there should be no women mental health, no women human right. So, I would strongly say that prioritizing women mental health is most justified. Why? Because over the years, great injustice has been done, meted out to women, and they are still lagging up behind in mental health. The magnitude of problem is great. When you look at the country, the women are suffering more than the men. And then looking at the Constitution, Article 21 says right to life means right to life with dignity. Then it also talks about right to equality, that is no discrimination. But what is more important, that Article 15(3), it permits the state to positively discriminate in favor of women by enacting laws, provisions to ameliorate the social, economic, political conditions and to accord them parity. So they are lagging behind. So this is not a favor. National Commission of Women is not a favor. People say it's a favor. There should be a men commission. No, I think it's not a favor. It is just to make them come equal to men. Then looking at the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 16 says, every individual, which includes women, of course, shall have a right to enjoy the best attainable state of physical and mental health. And then we have international instruments, CEDAW, which do not allow any form of discrimination against women. And finally, I would like to say, no country can progress if mental health of women is neglected. Further, I will say that if you look at the scenario in our country, most psychiatrists have been males, and the females are only came in later, and they were mostly junior. So there is a good possibility that the data that has been presented is skewed in favor of men. Then the other problem is the reproductive mental health. I strongly feel there is a male bias. The physiological states of the women have been medicalized. Say, for example, depression during menses, pregnancy, postpartum, perimenopause. When a woman is not able to do her work and complains of pain, she's labeled as a patient. The men do not understand that this is a physiological reaction to the stage under which she is undergoing. So instead of looking at the various psychosocial and family determinants, the poor nutritional status of the women, which contribute to the mental state of the woman, and which actually they are modifiable and they can be removed. The attitude of the men is to medicalize them and give them medications. But I think there is a strong male bias here. Then the other attitude is to highlight the deficiency of the women. That is, she is inept at multitasking. The working woman is inept. It is not highlighted that the man is inept in cooking, in child rearing, and so on. So if the man is able to do his work properly, then the multitasking would also not be needed. Then the other problem is with the women, working women. They have been pushed into the working arena. Most men want a working wife because she brings in money. But they have not made adequate provisions, neither at home nor in the community, to receive the working women. We still do not have good food available in the workplace, and the men do not cook at home, many of them. Then the last but not the least is that men considered women mental health an exclusively women's domain. It is a women's issue, nothing to do with us. And therefore you find in the IPS you have only women committing only women. But my point is that women mental health is complementary to men's mental health, and they must go side by side. Both men and women must understand each other, then only their human rights can be protected. The other problem that we find is that men avoid working in sensitive areas like domestic violence, dowry, rape, etc. And the other problem also, which is very, very severe, that the men view pro-women laws such as the Dowry Prohibition Law, Act 498A, cruelty by husband and relatives of husband, as anti-men laws. And they have been pushing data saying that more men are dying because of these laws than women. So this is another matter of concern. Then the other problem with the women mental health is that the domestic violence has been victim focused, not perpetrator focused. I think a perpetrator focused would give better results, because the active person is a perpetrator. If you can control him, it doesn't matter what the passive one is doing. So I think this is research is going in the wrong direction. Then the other problem is that men in the working arena, they have an ambivalent attitudes towards women. They like women because they are good workers, but they hate women because they are competitors. They're jealous of them, and therefore it is not uncommon that they are denied maternity leave, childcare leave, and women have to go to the court to get their constitutional right. And me, Professor Indira Sharma's maternity leave has not yet been sanctioned, despite so many representations. Then another problem with the women mental health is the Indian paradox. The husband is a god. So even when he beats her, throws her out, she pleads for restitution of conjugal rights and not for divorce or judicial separation. I just want to mention here a few real life cases just to illustrate many of the problems which occur in the real life, and many of them are not noted, and they cause severe mental ill health. Now, this is a case of a 28-year-old woman admitted to the psychiatry ward, and she gave a history that after the birth of a female baby 3 years back, there was so much of pandemonium because of it was a girl, that nobody wanted to talk to her, give her food, that she got so frustrated that when nobody was around, she throttled the baby, killed her, and after saying this, she cried. The other is the black color complex. Now, this is a girl. Her elder sister is very fair. She was dark. And right from the age of 6 years, the girl was looked down upon. Her nickname was Kali Kaluti Began Luti, and she was introduced as Bavli Beti, Bavli Ladki. And this was very, very humiliating to her and looked down upon. And she was given the utrans, the throwaways of her elder sister to wear, and the clothes, the first preference was always given to the elder, and she was given the drab colors to wear. And she had a very severe inferiority complex. But then the elder sister was very good. She brainwashed her and said, no, 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 who says you are not beautiful? You've got wonderful features. And then gradually the inferiority complex went away at the age of 22 years. And she also won a few prizes because of her good features. She was chosen by the dentistry department because of her good facial profile and so on. Then dysmenorrhea and work. This is another problem that we witness. This was a lady, she was 35 years old, follow-up case of depression. She was having menses and pain. She went to her room to rest. She told her mother-in-law, I can't do the work, don't do the cooking. But the mother-in-law listened, did not help. She ate something from the fridge. Then came in the father-in-law. When he saw there was no food to eat, nothing served, he just shouted, yelled, threw the plates, and then he just went into his room and he was frustrated. Then came the husband, no food, he also shouted, but he made some khichdi for himself. So you see, men cannot cook, so that's a real problem for the women. They cannot even take leave when they are sick. Then illness and work. This is a 48-year-old lady with bipolar disorder with multiple comorbidities, and was on follow-up treatment, and mild depression was continuing. But because of her dedication to her family, she was still managing all the domestic work, including cooking. At 8 p.m., a 32-year-old son came and she served him food. But after eating, he wanted more veggie. It had finished. And when the mother told her he couldn't take it, he shouted and yelled so badly at the mother that mother just could not take it. And she started hyperventilating, or she had a fit. And this boy, instead of trying to find a way to console the mother, he immediately made a video and sent it to me. See what has happened to my mother. And she has relapsed. And she did not tell about his fault, that he actually shouted at her and he should have not done that. Then this is the city of Shahjahanpur. You will be surprised to know that in 1 year, 2016, 9 cases of slashing of nose were reported because of alcohol, mostly because of alcohol or because of not bringing enough dowry. Then dowry, the other problem is of dowry. See, the male side in marriage they have a very high ego. Now, this is a case of a doctor lady and an engineer who were going to get married. A dowry demand of rupees 5,000 was made. When the lady, she came to know, she rang up the fiancé and said, this is not correct. Why you want 5,000? Will it compensate for my deficiencies? The husband, it was good. He said, the fiancé was good. He said, okay, we won't take. Then he told his mother and brother. But both of them did not take it in a healthy way. They said, this woman will ruin our family. She will break our family. And although the marriage did take place, the husband, she had no problems with the husband, but she was never accepted by the mother-in-law and the husband's younger brother. And this went on, and the worst scene was seen. And although she lived in the same house, there was covert hostility, very little communication with the mother-in-law, and she refused to attend to her when she was pregnant and she delivered. So this caused a lot of pain and misery. Then the work exploitation. This is a 38-year-old lady, follow-up case of tension type headache. They asked her, have you had any stresses? She's then, do you have any stresses in your life? She confessed that her husband tortures her by inviting too many guests, and she has to do all the cooking, washing, and nobody helps. And this is very, very stressful. And this is also at the time of children's exam. And finally, she told her, she had the guts to tell the husband, I cannot do this, no more guests in the house. Then we have what is known as the Raja Beta syndrome, which is very common in our country. This is a 50-year-old woman who was having depression, diabetes, hypertension. I asked her, why you are not doing exercise? I told you. Then I told the husband, you are the guardian, it is your responsibility to see that she does exercise. Then she confessed that I work the whole day. Where is the time? Just 2 minutes more. And then finally she On inquiry, it came that even the husband and the men were not even washing their clothes and doing their own work. Now, I won't say more. I just want to say that even the constitutional rights of women are being denied, and this has caused mental health, like maternity leave and childcare leave. And you all know about the Me Too movement. And in the end, I would like to say whose responsibility is to ensure good mental health of women. I will say everyone's responsibility. The woman, the guardian, the society, state, judiciary, and what is more important, the special needs of the woman must be taken care of. In some ways, they are equal, in some ways, they are special. And women, I think women should not put the full blame on the other people. They must also learn how to remain healthy and prevent themselves from various types of violence. And for women, healthy lifestyle, including healthy food and exercise, is important. Now, in the end, I would like to just say that the role of psychiatrists is very, very important. We must advertise that mental illness is often a cause of mental ill health, and so early detection must be done both in the victim and the perpetrators, and it must be treated. And finally, I would like to end my presentation by a few good words said. It is not the bruises of the body that hurt, it's the wounds of the heart and the scars on the mind. Happiness can be found even in the darkest of times if one only remembers to turn on the light. Thank you very much.
Excellent